What's up, guys, and welcome to a car that I've been curious about for so long. This is a 1991 Ford Fox Body Mustang LX 5.0. The Fox Body, which is the third generation Mustang, came out in 1979 and was in production through 1993. So this 1991 is a pretty late model year. It has the updated aerodynamic headlights, which replaces the quad headlights of the pre-facelift version. We have this 5-liter, which is technically closer to 4.9-liter naturally aspirated V8. It made 225 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque when new. The owner, Tyler, has done a few mods to this one. It has 190,000 miles. He swapped in a 3.27 rear end from a Ford Caprice, I believe he said. Full exhaust, throttle body. The facelifted Fox Body did move to mass airflow, which made it much easier to tune. And he's done a bunch of chassis stiffening mods, maximum motorsports braces, a panhard bar on the rear end to essentially keep the rear axle from shifting left and right during hard cornering. And he's got Bilstein HD shocks with a front coilover conversion. I'll put the mod list in the video description, but I am just so excited to be driving a Fox Body for the first time. I've always appreciated these from afar because I've always had a soft spot for the 1980s era boxy sport compact like the Toyota AE86. He did swap in a new hydraulic steering rack, and this car has front McPherson strut suspension and a rear multi-link, just under 2,900 pounds. As you can see, Tyler has ripped out the rear interior and installed some bucket seats. So with that out of the way, let's take this for a drive. Let's prime the fuel pump first. Just old car problems. Gotta love that V8 burble. 225 horsepower might not sound like much. In fact, from a 5-liter or 4.9-liter V8, that's not a very good specific output, but we're talking 1980s technology here, guys. 5-speed manual transmission, very heavy clutch, very slow steering ratio. Oh, wow, that is loud. This engine revs out to 6,000, but Tyler mentioned it really doesn't make power above about 5. From this V8 is insane. I can barely hear myself think. Such a slow steering ratio. Hey, it's actually not as slow as you might think. 225 horsepower ain't much, but the car weighs less than 2,900 pounds, so the power to weight isn't bad. Woo. This is not a revvy engine by any means. It really doesn't like to be revved all that high. Perfectly happy staying from 3,000 to about 5. Good throttle response. The steering, though, is way over boosted. This hydraulic rack, I mean, look at that on center play, but more importantly, it doesn't load up in the corners. There's just very little weight. So the steering rack is definitely not the highlight of the car. What this transmission might just be. It's actually really notchy, a little higher effort, but very satisfying to use. First gear pull. Actually pretty easy to heel toe. The throttle pedal is all the way to the right, so you do have to extend your foot. Woo. This is everything I dreamt it would be. Fox Body Mustang, baby. I just love this era of sport compacts. You gotta remember, the second generation Mustang became became this big, heavy, lumbering beast of a thing. And so this third generation Fox body was a sort of return to form for the Ford Mustang. It became relatively lightweight again, nimble, with enough power. Oh my god, that second gear grind. I gotta be a little more intentional with that. Whoa. There we go. The brakes don't feel bad. Good modulation. But this steering does not tell me what's happening on the road. Oh, that's a one tire fire there. The rear axle of this car doesn't feel sophisticated. It skips over the bumps, and the most noticeable thing is when you're cornering mid-corner and you go over a bump, the rear skips to the left or right, as well as up and down. Now, I think the panhard bar that Tyler installed is supposed to alleviate that, but I can definitely still feel it. But even just cruising around in this thing is a joy. It's an absolute time capsule of a car, and one of my favorite looking Mustang generations of all time, if I'm being perfectly honest. The first gen still has a special place in my heart, especially the Shelby, but the second gen never did it for me, the Mustang 2. The Fox body really is that sweet spot. I've always been a big fan of 80s automotive design, and this Fox body is the epitome of that. Apparently there was even a team of designers in Italy who contributed to the overall look of this car. Oh, there it is again, that rear end skip mid-corner. The engine sounds really rough at high RPM. Does not want to be up there for too long. Firestone Firehawk Indy 500 tires on some 17-inch wheels from the 01 Mustang. They give this car a modern amount of grip. Oh my gosh, this thing is a handful. Even driving at 7/10, you gotta be really careful. Oh. The shocks actually don't feel bad, these Bilstein HDs, but just the inherent suspension geometry at that rear end is definitely the limiting factor here, and why I can't push this car much harder than I just did. Granted, this car does have a learning curve. I'm sure with more seat time, you could really get into a groove with this thing and slide it around. It does have a clutch type limited slip differential. Let's do a straight line pull here. Oh yeah. Love it. It is not slow in a straight line. Oh, I absolutely love it. It's everything I want an 80s sport compact rear-wheel drive car to be. It would be really interesting to pit this against an 86 Toyota just to see which car is the true king of 80s hatchbacks, rear-wheel drive hatchbacks. Just an absolute pleasure. A big shout out to Tyler, who's right there in his Fiesta ST, for finally letting me experience a Fox body Mustang, and a very nice example at that. Despite having almost 190,000 miles, it's in good shape. It drives well. It looks great. Got a few dents on the exterior, but no big deal. This car is about just driving it, not caring too much what others think, doing your own maintenance to it, because after all, it does have simple 1980s engineering, and just appreciating it for what it is. So let me know what you guys think of the Fox body Mustang. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.